It's
Sorry.
Kelly's supposed to be.
I
Then heard it
didn't hear any different. That she wouldn't.
Tim, would you like to start with a word?
Right? Lord, may we come in this evening hour, this beautiful day. Thou hast blessed us thus far, further thy blessings. Give wisdom, give courage, give understanding, and give love one for another. Forgive of every sin. Help us with wisdom. For Jesus' sake, amen.
You all had a chance to go over the minutes. Is there any changes or? If not, we will approve them. Need a motion from someone?
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? What report do we have this week?
Yeah, so,
I'm sorry, any questions on any of the other partner agencies and reports?
But do we have to do the agenda edits first?
if there are any edits, yeah, so
So we separated those out, the minutes and the agenda.
are there any edits? So this would be one of those new ones,
Uh,
if there's any edits that need to be made to the agenda. I don't have any, but that doesn't.
Is there any agenda?
I make a
Changes.
motion to accept the agenda as written.
Is there support? Tim supported. All those in favor of accepting the agenda as is?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It passes. Public comment. Geez, I missed two of them.
No public online.
Good evening.
No public in the crowd. Who needs to speak? Who wants to speak? All right, now let's go to the reports. I'm so anxious to get there. Is there any questions on any of the written ones that were in our packet?
I just would like to say, to commend Megan and the staff, like for all their work on kind of streamlining the report process and making them, you know, I know it's been a whole chore to rethink how you're providing those, and like, I found it really helpful, and I think some good improvements, so.
That's nice.
Is there one that we have?
Yeah, so today I have a quick update on, so we added the executive director's report. I'm just gonna give you a quick report on where my focus has been over the last month and where my focus will be over the next month. This last month was busy with our MUCD training and then our annual meeting, which I think was a real hit. Hope you guys all enjoyed it. I had we did all of our quarterly reporting this last month, so that was a big focus at the end of the month for me. I was off the first week of July or January, July, whatever month I'm in. As I go forward next month, my focus will be on budgets and our appropriations for fiscal year 24. So that will be most of my focus, as well as annual reviews and some HR pieces, and updating any of the position descriptions that need to be updated to the new fiscal year. And then finalizing our annual plan of work for the next fiscal year, all for you guys to take a look at in September. So that's really my only addition that I wanted to make sure I just.
That's it?
Yeah,
Awesome.
that's it.
Way to go.
That was sarcastic.
I know.
Okay.
And then our program highlight, we have two. I'm gonna go a little out of order. I have put our watershed program first, but I think I'm gonna put them second as we have some visitors here today. I have invited Tara Tyler and her colleagues, Veronica, thank you, to just talk to you guys a little bit about the Michigan Employees Retirement Services, or MERS. Well, this is something that we've been talking about individually and within our finance committee, as some ways that we might be able to add some benefits to our staff here. So I'm gonna pass it along to them to inform you on what this program can offer our staff, and give you guys some tools so we can make some decisions in September on whether this is right for us.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having us. Yes, I'm Tara Tyler with MERS, the Michigan Employees. The municipal, you said Michigan, so you got me.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I company name wrong. Municipal Employees Retirement System. This is Veronica Labar. She is the regional manager. So a little bit about what we do is I work with employers such as yourself throughout the state of Michigan to just talk about what products we can offer you, from an employee benefit standpoint, see if it's a good fit or not. So whether you're part of MERS or, not, and part of MERS and want to add, Veronica's role is to meet and follow up with groups who are already in our system, review their plans, see what other needs you need from like a reporting standpoint, education standpoint. And so we thought this was a good fit for her, just to hear kind of what questions, employers who aren't part of our system have, since she's a little bit newer to the role, but been with MERS for how many years?
8 years now.
8 years, there you go. So we got some senior veterans. I think I've been there 17 years, so must have started when I was like 10. I will just highlight some things, but I'm casual, so if you guys have questions, slow down. What did you say? Let me know, but I put a presentation together based on our conversations with Megan that I thought would kind of bullet point what I feel like you're looking for. Also, what I've had similar conversations with conservation districts as yourself that I think will be a good fit. Starting out, here's our agenda. I'm just gonna highlight who MERS is, talk about the retirement plans. That will be like the core conversation, I feel like. Investment menu, what these participants will have access to. Highlight some additional programs, if you hear some key points that might be a fit. Resources, takeaways, and kind of next steps for you as a board with discussions. I'm curious though, how many of you know who MERS is or have heard about us? Awesome. Do you have a MERS plan? Or how do you know? about us? Okay,
Past important.
okay,
My husband has one.
okay. And then you also heard about us at a conference
Mhm.
through, I think, Debbie Rochester speaking.
Correct.
Yeah, and then you said you knew MERS?
Yeah, I'm a part of the ICMA. And so like through that work
Okay,
or my studies and things like that, I've heard about MERS, but
Okay.
I didn't think, I didn't kind of connect the dot that it would actually benefit us.
yeah.
So that's exciting.
Okay, great. Yeah, so ICMA is Mission Square. We used to use their plans for defined contribution in 457. We actually now administer our own plans, and so we're kind of a competitor of them now.
Ooh.
All
right.
Did you say you know who yours was?
A little bit, I have a PERS account in
Oh.
Montana's public employee,
Yes.
department system. so
Okay. So yeah,
Similar, just
yeah.
different state.
Exactly, yeah, people get us also confused though with the state of Michigan. And then MIPSERS, which is the Municipal Public Employees Retirement System, that those are teachers. And then there's state employees, and then MERS is solely Michigan municipalities, so counties, cities, townships, road commissions, conservation districts, authorities. Everybody else, basically in the government world. So this is just a little bit more about who we are. We're an independent retirement system. Our primary goal is obviously to administer your retirement plans on a nonprofit basis. And really what that means to you is because we're nonprofit, the economies of scale you can see with over $14 billion and pooling those assets are really going to give your employees the lowest investment costs kind of out there. We have over 100,000 participants. That's both active and the retirees that we talk to. And 84% of municipalities throughout the state utilize MERS because we are a voluntary state. You can choose who you want to administer your plans. It's not state regulated. And we now have over 1,000 municipalities in our system. So we're pretty proud of that. A little bit more about MERS. We're also ran by an elected board, just as yourself. So just to kind of give you some like connection, kind of basically taking us out of that private sector market that we're public entities oversaw by these board members as well. We have retirees on the board. We have active people working on the board. We have a couple investment people that are outside to kind of like oversee what our investment department is truly doing. But I would also say one thing that sets us apart from like our competitors is that we're a sole fiduciary of these plans. And so that's taking a lot of risk and responsibility off of you as a board to have to worry about compliance, making sure the plans are staying regulated. You don't have to oversee the investment menu. That is our role. We want to be the experts in that industry and take any of that off of you guys as a board. These are just some highlights of some of the things that we do as far as administration. I think from a standpoint of the plans you guys are looking at, because some of these could be more defined benefit, traditional pension regulated, such as like auditing, some of the GASB actuarial things. But the other things that I feel like are important to you would be financial reporting, administration, I mentioned that portfolio management, we're gonna make sure we're giving, the core investment options to your staff. And participate in education resources. Those things are all just built into utilizing our system. And then a little bit more about the fiduciary responsibility. These are really the core aspects of what MERS does. The legal compliance, which I already mentioned, investment oversight, and offering reasonable expenses. And if, I feel like this is a great slide, and it's maybe not as important to you because you don't have a provider, but I would say majority of our groups who maybe have a provider or other plans would fit in the co-fiduciary responsibility. So that's important to you as a board because you would have some legal responsibility on that oversight management. What this is telling you is that MERS is the sole plan provider in the green area. And so taking all those stipulations off of you guys as a board, and we're the experts again in those things that we mentioned. So I'll just pause for a minute to see if you have any questions about who MERS is and kind of what we would do for you.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So you have a board that controls you guys,
Yes.
but you also said you had people that oversee the finances.
Yes, so we have an investment department. We have about 8 to 10 people who are looking at the investments on a daily basis to make trades, but they're investing, I want to say about 25% of that $14 billion internally. And then the rest they're outsourced globally. So we have investment managers in Australia, Hawaii, trying to think of all the places, China. And so when we hire an investment manager, depending on, what that portfolio is for, they go on site and review and do all the due diligence to make sure that is truly a company that exists that we're handing money
Right.
to invest. And so that is basically what our team is doing, is not only investing internally a sleeve of our core portfolio, but making sure the people that we hire are meeting the benchmarks that we want them to.
Okay.
Does that help?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so these are the retirement programs I wanted to talk about, 2 of them, and we're gonna kind of just talk side by side about them both. Defined contribution and a 457. And so here's a little bit more information about both of those. So the defined contribution plan is kind of what it's called, a defined contribution. It's a way for you as an employer to set up the plan and define how the money goes in. It's a qualified retirement plan, meaning that the money goes in tax-free and the participant cannot use it until post-employment 59.5. And then we have a 457 supplemental plan, which is essentially a savings plan also, adopted by the employer, but that's more employee driven and usually voluntary for them to put, or excuse me, it is voluntary. It's a voluntary resource for them to put money in.
I have a question about that. What are
Yep.
the stipulations for the 457 as far as withdrawals? Because it's not, or doesn't seem like it's a retirement specific
Good question.
plan. Okay, yeah,
Yep,
perfect.
no, that's, I was see if it was on here, I couldn't remember exactly what the next slide was, so the first one I talked about, the defined contribution, like you said. They have to leave employment and be 59.5 to use it, the 457 is voluntary, a little less restrictive. They use that post-employment regardless of their age.
Okay.
So here's a little bit more information kind of about both of those, so the defined contribution, the employer, majority of the time, I would say contributes. It's so you would have a tax-free employer contribution, so you define how that money goes in. Vesting options are available if you wanted to, so the money for the employer can either be immediately vested. It can be like a graded vesting, meaning after 25 years, they get 20, or excuse me, after 2 years, they get 25%, after 3 years, they get 50%, after 4 years, they're vested, so you could grade it at different levels. Or you could just simply say, you aren't vested until after 5 years fully. So very flexible on how, if you guys want to put a vesting cycle, what that looks like. So the employer contributes, and then if you wanted to mandatorily make the employees contribute, and we call this a pre-tax mandatory contribution, meaning everybody within this defined plan has to contribute. Again, how you define that. Are you telling them they all have to contribute 2%? Or are you maybe giving them a couple options because maybe you're gonna match them? So if they put in 1, you'll put in 1. If you put in 2, they'll put in 2. Now, once the employee makes that election, if you're giving them choices, that's the remainder of their career, the amount they would have to put in. because that's kind of restrictive, we typically pair the employees' contributions, if you're not gonna mandate them and you wanna give them some kind of match. We would pair the defined contribution plan with the 457, because that's employee driven, it's voluntary. It lets the employee make their election, knowing what their match is gonna be, but gives them that flexibility to move that contribution amount based on their life circumstances. Now, by default, the money that goes into the 457 from the employee is pre-tax. If you wanted to allow an after-tax contribution, it's called a Roth, so you could do that, let the employees pick how much they want to put in. As you can see, the last bullets on both of them, they both have annual limits. So the most for 2023 is $66,000 for the defined contribution. And for the 457 is 22,500. Also has some catch-up contributions if you're over age 50 and if you're within 3 years of retiring. Why I like these two together, again, is just to kind of go back, is because you can allow the employee to contribute to the 457 if you're going to give them a match, and then they can fluctuate their contribution in the 457 rather than being locked in. So if you have a young person who says, well, I'm only doing 1% right now, I'm going to get a 1% match, but then in 5 years, it's like, oh, I wish I would have done 3%. Like, I see the value of that. IRS says no, if that money is going into the defined contribution and it's the employee's money, they can't change it. But if you pair it with the 457, they can fluctuate that, which would fluctuate their match. And so this is really what we've seen majority of the time is people kind of hybriding these two plans together if they wanted to incentivize their employees with a match.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
What is the benefit of having a Roth option versus a pre-tax?
Great. Yep, so employees may want to, so pre-tax goes in pre-tax, is deferring your taxes till later. When you use the money once you leave employment, if that, the year you use that money is when you will be taxed. So do you want to pay your taxes now or later? The Roth one, the money comes out after you've already paid your taxes through your paycheck. And so then your money isn't taxed later, but really the question is, do you want to pay your taxes now or later? And so for some people, I would say majority, paying their taxes later is more beneficial because their tax bracket is going to be lower. Some people are like, nope, I want to pay my taxes now. I want to be done with it. My tax bracket might be about the same. I don't have to worry about paying taxes later.
So would they pay the taxes? Let's pretend, for instance, they reached retirement age, would they have to pay the taxes on it then?
It
No,
depends.
they
If
pay
it
it
was-
Well,
So if it
So
was a
you
Roth,
don't pay taxes on any of the interest. That's the beauty of a Roth. You don't pay it on any of the interest. With your pre-tax dollars, you'll pay taxes on the interest. So if you're a young person and it's in there for a lot of years, you can have a lot more interest than you are per se. So a Roth is a lot better for a young person because they got a lot of time versus an older person.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a great question. Any other questions?
I got one.
Yes.
So I'm gonna say the DC one. Isn't there like a 10% penalty if you need to get your money out?
Yeah, you can take your money early,
You can get your money.
pardon?
You can get your money, just pay a penalty.
Yeah, it's like an in-service distribution. You can pay a penalty and pay taxes.
Yeah.
To get the money out early. Yes.
So following up on that question, I know some plans have like some kind of grace period that like. If as long as you, it's almost like taking a loan against your, retirement. So then it may not be, maybe it's like 10% if you're just taking it out, but it'd be like. You can take it out, you can use it as long as you pay it back within the next year, or 2 years, it'll only be 2% or something like that. Is that the case in this? Is there any kind of that flexibility? Or is it just like if you take money out, you're taking money out and that's just the end of it?
Yep, so both plans do allow for loan provisions if the employer wants to set that up. Now or even later, if there's an inquiry, they can make some edits. So I would say most of the time on the defined contribution, the employer wants that money to be there for you to have in retirement, so they would say no loans. That's just kind of what I'm seeing. But you can have loans be an available withdrawal. Same for the 457, you can do loans against that. And I would say most of the time people will say, yep, if somebody needs to take a loan, that's their money. And I get it because, you know, there's a situation where they can't get approved or just some circumstance happens. So yes, there's always the ability to allow for loans in both of the plans.
I'll just say my husband took a loan against his is a 401k, but
Yes.
it was beneficial for him to take out a loan against himself and pay himself back essentially, so.
Yeah, sometimes interest rates can be lower than like a personal loan. I'd have to look, I can't remember exactly what our rates are right now, but they've gone up because of, the industry, but. Yeah, that's definitely something you guys can consider if you want to allow loans in the plans.
I do have one more question, I'm sorry.
Don't be sorry, I'm a question
I
person.
need Megan's help on this one.
Okay.
So we gotta define employee or employee, what they put in, employer match. And we are working on grants, and they get a certain percentage from that grant for the retirement, correct? So how do we define? Is that the employee's money or the employer's money going in there?
So I think that's gonna be all decided in how we decide to utilize that fringe benefit. So currently we utilize that fringe benefit as a retirement stipend. So it would, and then we talked about changing our bonus system. So that was kind of my thought and how we could continue to give staff that bonus, but not have it be in that way. So I was looking at that budget as how we would decide whatever our match contribution was. So their retirement stipend would remain the same. It would still be the retirement stipend. We're not taking money out of our pocket. However, they decide to invest in it, then we then could make those determinations on the percentages that we have the right budgets within to then match with those funds and whatever funds that I can also take out of those funding streams. I don't know if that answered it. But what just happened?
Like my phone was on silent. I don't sound like it was.
So I don't know if I answered that, but it would,
I'm just wondering how we're going. What is what?
yeah, so my thought is that our match is gonna come out of that bonus pocket. What
And
we
that'll
had-
change year to year, employee to employee to grant to grant. So how do we get by with this? Them picking a percentage of 1, 2, 3, 5%, and then has to stay there
Mhm.
when our end of it's gonna change because of our funding source. You get that question from other conservation districts?
No, not specifically, but you can change your provisions from year to year.
Oh,
If this year you can max out at 3%, kind of on the highest ends, assuming everybody's gonna take advantage of that maximum 3%. Next year you need to go lower or higher, you can revise that your match is not the same the
Okay.
previous year based on the amount of money that you have allocated.
No, I think that answers your question, Doug, as far as if we can move it from year to year,
Yeah.
then that's just a budgeting,
Yep.
Well,
figure.
and communicating to the employees so they know
Right.
what to expect, yeah.
Yeah, and I'd also say, majority of our groups give the employees a base contribution, so like 3 or 5%. And then in addition to that is where the matching would come into play. So we're gonna give all employees 5%. Is what it is. If you want to contribute anything in addition to that on your own, we will match up to 3. So potentially the employer could be giving a total of 8. And the employees could be putting in 3 of their own. Employees can put in 4 or 5 or 6 if they want, they just want to get the match on that, but they're obviously taking advantage of saving tax deferred money and saving for their future. High-end example. Here's just a little bit more, I think we kind of talked a little bit about this, in service distributions, after 60, there's no penalties, for defined contribution plans. Participants can use their accounts as soon as they leave employment, subject to the 10% penalty if they're before 59.5. And then the 457, participants use that when they leave employment, any age, so there's no age restrictions on the 457.
Now, can I roll that to an approved plan, so I don't have to pay them 10%? If I'm an employee that I've left before I'm 59?
It won't change the rules, so you can't like avoid your 10%.
Okay.
And MERS has the lowest fees, so you're not gonna wanna roll your funds out.
But let's say, maybe
That's a
this
good
is
question,
the
though.
question you're asking, maybe it's not, but
Yeah.
like, let's say they move to a different employer. just want to
Mhm.
roll it into a new 401k so that it's all managed in the same place, are they able to do that?
Yes, yep, you can definitely roll money out into a qualified plan and you can definitely roll money in.
But paying the 10?
Nope, there's not gonna, you're not using the money, you're just
Okay,
consolidating
that was
to
my
a
question,
different
as far
provider.
as to
Oh, I'm
get
sorry.
around having to
But
pay
you
the
can't,
10%.
you
You
can't
can,
roll a deferred comp into like a 401k.
You actually can, yeah.
Well, I didn't know, I don't think the IRS, allowed that.
Yeah, there's, I have a chart that I can show you that shows qualified plan to qualified plan, and there's not penalties. The
As long as it's
penalties
rolled
come into
over.
play when you're taking money and putting it in your hand.
right, I'm
and
talking,
using
yes,
it.
moving it to Anna.
But if you move it to, she mentioned ICMA, which is now Mission Square, and you're like, hey, I have like 5 accounts there, I wanna consolidate everything to Mission Square, you can do a plan to plan rollover and there's no penalties.
Okay. That was my question,
Okay.
yes.
Perfect. We talked a little bit about it. I'll just kind of read through it, combining the plans to incentivize the employees by using the MERS defined contribution and the 457 together. Employers incentivize employees to match, through their contributions, while the employees get that flexibility of being able to contribute more or less. And using this, we've seen employees more likely, 2 times more likely to contribute to their own plan and really kind of owning their retirement and taking advantage of it because of that flexibility. I feel like that was high level, but I feel like also maybe what you wanted to hear and needed to hear based on some items. So you can use the defined contribution by itself and not do a match to the 457. You don't have to also require an employee contribution. You could just say the employer is going to contribute to the defined contribution, and we're going to give the employees access to the 457 and they can take advantage of it if they want. So while I feel like I kind of told you to kind of pair them together and incentivize the employees, you don't have to do that either. They're really separate plans, but a great way to make it flexible for the participants is to kind of combine the two. I want to give an overview, just so you're familiar with MERS, with our investment menu and our plan costs. I have more of the detail in these folders too. I just thought this would be a great overview of kind of learning how we set up our investments. So we have 3 categories. We want to make it easy for the participants to understand the categories. The first one is Do It For Me. Those are target date funds that are based on the participant's age. Basically move along this glide path. They're defaulted. This is your default fund also for a participant. Because that's what we know about them. We know their age. We can put them into a fund that makes sense. MERS does the research and the monitoring of these investments. And we just feel like it's logical. Instead of handing somebody a book and saying good luck, we want them to understand the categories and kind of the diversification behind them. The second one is Help Me Do It. These are pre-built funds that we already have, that we know what industry standard funds are being utilized and people want. There's also some categories. People maybe want more stocks or more bonds. So you can kind of build your own portfolio through that one. And then we also know that there's people who are savvy investors and they might want this sleeve 3. However, we don't have a whole lot of participants using this one. It's called I'll Do It Myself. It's a brokerage window, and somebody could pay to go through this window and basically invest however they want through Burger King, Coca-Cola, Gold. They just pay a little bit more because it's outside of MERS window, but it's giving them access to be more aggressive with their investing. We also believe in transparency. A lot of times we find people don't even know how much they're paying or where to find costs in their current plans. And so these are things you can find right on our website. They are fund sheets that show you the breakdown of each fund and what those costs are. You'll notice this says there's no cost to the employer because we don't have employer setup fees. We don't have quarterly fees for the employer. These fees are what the participants are going to pay based on how they're investing. However, those fees come out of their return. So it's not like they're getting a bill. This 0.34 is coming out of their returns. And so again, because of our economies of scale and our $14 billion, our fees are really low, which means the employees are putting more money in their savings account. On average, as of 2022, our average cost was 0.39, which would also equivalent to $3.90 per $1,000. That's really low. I would say most of the time we're running into competitors that are almost 1% or higher. And so 0.39, if you're familiar, is very reduced. That's again us bringing things in-house, being very diligent with our people that we contract with, to say, hey, we're nonprofit, you know, what's the lowest you can do, and obviously still stay professional and at the best. So 0.39 is the average cost we see participants using. And then this is a great chart because it shows the impact of costs over time. So for somebody who is investing $10,000 over 30 years, with their 0.39, they could have $72,000 in it. If they had 1% charge, then they're gonna have a shortfall of $12,000. So you can see the higher the fees, the shorter the balance is, because those fees are really taking away from their end result. So if you have somebody that's being charged 2%, they're gonna have a shortfall of about $27,000 compared to somebody who is in MERS with those low fees. So this is really just showing that over time, whether it's during accumulation or in retirement, those fees are gonna matter. This is just kind of another thing. It's not just about fees, it's about performance. So it's just showing you, MERS has completed 50 comparisons, or more, I would say at this point. And every time that we show people comparisons to our competitors, MERS has, saved on the fees. And this is basically where we rank in, comparison to the returns. So you'll see, you know, in the last 10 years, we've been 100% better. In the last 1 year, 96% better. And so I feel like that just goes to show we're kind of all investing in the same market, but MERS is always just really doing a little bit better while also keeping those fees a lot lower. This is just some helpful information I thought you might like to know. Some other plans that we offer. Group health insurance, MERS uses the standard for that since we're not the expert, but they give us group rates if you guys need life insurance, short-term or long-term care. Those are low-cost benefits, but obviously important benefits to offer to your staff. So if that's something you're considering, let us know. We can get you a quote through the standard on that. So I guess I kind of highlighted that. Life insurance, long-term and short-term disability. This healthcare savings program, this is a popular one too. It's again, employer adopted. It can be, I'd say mostly employer funded. You can require an employee contribution, but the beauty of this is the money goes in tax-free, invests tax-free, and comes out tax-free. So a lot of people want to give it to their employees in lieu of retirement, healthcare. Or just as like an extra benefit, because we all know we're gonna have retiree healthcare expenses. So it's really great because it's a triple tax benefit. Employees can use it post-employment also, regardless of their age. The employer could put a vesting on this, but it's just kind of another bucket of things to think of as far as what benefits you want to offer, and maybe it's down the road. But it's great because it's, like I said, tax-free going in, tax-free coming out.
Quick questions. It says employers save on FICA taxes. How does that work, or what impact does that have on FICA
Yeah.
withdrawals?
So they don't pay FICA going in. So the employer is saying, instead of paying FICA going into some type of benefit, there's no FICA payment. So what is it, 7.64%? Yeah, so the employer doesn't have to pay FICA because it's tax-free for them. It goes to the employee tax-free, and then it comes out tax-free. I'd say the caveat with this, people are like, well, what's the downfall? You have to use it for medical expenses. So it's in this trust that it can only be used for premiums, co-pays, prescriptions, over-the-counter drugs. I mean, the list is actually 30 pages long of definitions of what a medical expense is. I mean, it could be mileage to get to the doctor's office. And we all know medical expenses are expensive, and so it's a great kind of pot of money.
What happens to it upon a death and it's not used?
Oh, good question. I feel like you're like a plant. So when you leave employment, the money is for you, your spouse, and legal dependents. If you don't have a legal dependent, you don't have a spouse and or spouse passes, and you pass. So once you pass and there's no longer a legal dependent and spouse, you would have a beneficiary on file. It can be multiple beneficiaries. So that would maybe be like your adult child or your favorite coworker. And you can split that amongst your primary beneficiaries. They use it for medical, but they are taxed. And then you would have a contingent beneficiary or multiple contingent beneficiaries on file. They use it for medical and they are taxed.
It has to be used for medical.
Has to always be used for medical. But you, your spouse, and legal dependents, it's tax-free. When you pass it on, they are taxed. It's income at that point.
Is this health care savings program strictly after employment benefit?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, post-employment regardless of age. We also have IRAs, so this was, from our participants who said, hey, we like your investments, we like your fees, we like your returns. What can we do outside of our employer-sponsored plans? And that would be to set up an IRA. So a participant can call MERS and utilize our IRAs, on their own. We work directly with them, the employer is not involved. They can also have their spouse use it too. And so this was really just a direct, want and need from our participants to be able to access something with MERS and have their spouses be able to do it. So they have traditional and Roth options. Obviously, all the same rules apply as far as if you can participate in it, and what the contribution limits are. So that's just utilizing our investment funds. Here is your staff of MERS. So we obviously cover the west side of Michigan. These are all the groups in our region. We're region 4. There's obviously 6 regions. You'll see Angie Schraben at the top. She's our education specialist. So she's somebody who's going to come on site once your plans are set up. Typically, I do the initial enrollment to kind of give some background and history to like how we came about it. But she goes and visits with all of our employers, well, not the employers, the participants, but she works with the employers to set up ongoing education meetings at least once a year, if not twice a year or more. Just to educate, friendly reminders of what these plans are, so participants are really in touch with MERS. Myself, Karima, she is in-house, so she's gonna work with the employers if they have questions on reporting or pulling reports. So she's gonna be like a point contact more for the employer. And then same for Veronica. She's gonna be the primary point of contact if you don't know where to go. Just call Veronica and she'll kindly put you in contact with the correct person. Some participant resources. We have financial fitness resources on our portal. And so these are really nice for participants who want to put in some data about themselves, kind of see if they're on target or not. We have live and recorded webinars of various topics. Live customer support. So we actually have a chat room for participants or employers to use that. We have a one-on-one scheduler. If the employer doesn't want to do a group meeting, they could use this one-on-one scheduler to send out to their participants ahead of time. And we also have customized education. So if you wanted to do something above and beyond just, let's talk about defined contribution or 457, maybe you have some other goals to talk about financial planning or wellness, we have some other presentations that we can kind of tie in some of those talking points. And then employer resources, obviously we have employer roundtable meetings, those are throughout the state. And so we invite all groups within MERS to kind of talk about with our CEO, with regional team members, and kind of just hear other key hot topics in your area. We also have an annual conference that we invite all of our groups to. Non-MERS groups can come too. It might help kind of gauge, you know, interest in MERS. So this year it's in Detroit. And we balance between Detroit, Traverse City, and Kalamazoo. Communication from MERS, we send updates from our CEO and what we call a communication corner on our website. Also, we have mailings and emails sent from MERS, but this is just really kind of keeping you in the loop of all things MERS. And then we have an investments podcast too, where most of the time it's our CFO and maybe one of our attorneys kind of seeing, you know, what's going on in the market or what they expect in the future is going to happen. So a lot of different resources, you know, depending on kind of your need. And then these are just some of the key takeaways I feel like we highlighted today. The benefits of partnering with MERS, that fiduciary responsibility, options for your 457 participants, whether it's pre-tax, Roth, or wanting to go through a brokerage window to get more investments. Customer service, we really strive on customer service. So we want to make sure we're giving you what you want, what you need. So obviously, let us know if we're not hitting that. The cost-effective benefits, I'd say it's one of the biggest things that people are happy with. Not only, you know, just our education and keeping you in the loop, but I mean, obviously, long-term cost is going to be a big driver. And then some participant resources are that we have consolidated statements. And then I talked about some of the other wellness education presentations we have. One thing I didn't mention, which I think it might be on our last slide, but I feel like I should have put that back into maybe both of the employee and employer slides, is we have a in-house service center. And so you can call and get a live person, whether it's an employer who needs assistance with reporting because me or Veronica or somebody's not on the road who you're comfortable with. So the employer can always call our customer service, or a participant can always call our customer service center and say, hey, I need help logging in, or can you just pull up my account and answer some questions, or, you know, whatever it may be. We have a dedicated staff that we want to make sure you get a live person, and essentially they're local. Some next steps, I just thought this might be handy to kind of know and think of, is for you guys, at the bottom, it says, what will you need to do? Yours is at the bottom. Determine your plan to, design, who's eligible, when you want to report, kind of some of those like thoughts, and then I'll go through a checklist to get that prepared for you. Send some adoption paperwork to MERS once we've had those discussions. You will obtain employee enrollment, so basically just getting confirmation from the employee how much they want to contribute, or if they're signing and acknowledging your plans. And then you will participate in portal training to complete those reportings. It's really easy. We give you a spreadsheet, you fill out your participants and their contribution amounts, and then you upload it in our portal, and it tells you how much to send us by check or ACH. But we just want you to be comfortable with our portal, obviously, so we do set up a live portal training. And then we will prepare that document to have your board adopt those paperworks based on our conversations. I'll ask you some kind of more complete conversations. I'll complete that paperwork, send it to you. Once I get signed paperwork on our end, we'll get your plan set up in-house. We will conduct employee and enrollment meetings just to kind of kick that off. And then once that money is sent to MERS and those accounts are set up, your participants will get notifications. Majority of the time it's by email because it's how we collect information. Just saying, hey, welcome to MERS, log in. We want them to log into their portal to put beneficiaries on file. And then we encourage them just to learn more about MERS and roll over any outside funds to consolidate their plans. And then these are just some other kind of key takeaways, how we make it easy. We work with you on, you know, how do you want to report, how often? So we give you some options. We offer those one-on-one employer trainings because we don't want you just to have to get a guide completely and just figure it out. So we want to make sure you talk to somebody. We can even do a Zoom call where they share screens and kind of show you that. We've even had people go on site before because sometimes it could be a struggle. So we want to make it easy for you. We give you wage and contribution data just so you are familiar with like those limits we talked about. And what you maybe need to report down the road on W-2s or 1094s and 1095s. We give you that option to set up ACH. We give you automatic enrollment and increased enrollment options if you want to make the employees kind of auto enroll versus optionally enroll. And then our online loan application process, if you guys allow loans, is also easy because it's kind of taking the employer out of being the middleman so that participant can contact MERS directly. And then this is our address and our service center number. That number is going to be almost on the back of every document we give you. So it's going to be on the back of this folder that I'm going to leave, and then inside it's going to be on the back of like every takeaway because we really want people to take advantage of that. What I do for time? Probably went over. What questions do you have?
So I think what my hope was that by having Tara present to us and informing us of some of the options that are available, that as I take a look at our budgets and work with our finance committee this month, I can present an option or two to bring to the board in September that would fit our budgets, and see what your guys' thoughts on a direction and if it fits within our desires for and our budgets for what we'd like to see for our staff.
My only feedback on that would be, because they offer some other benefits like life insurance and that kind of thing, that would really be almost employee purchased, but we'd be facilitating it through MERS. It might be helpful to just do a 2 or 3 question easy survey to the employees and maybe like list,
Mhm.
here's all the things, like what would be the most valuable to the
So,
least valuable, and
Not
get
to
some kind of
interrupt you,
idea.
but at the conference,
Mhm.
our CEDM, group was working, I believe with MERS. And the Washtenaw Conservation District has taken the lead on, trying to, get a group health insurance slash auxiliary benefit plan put in place.
Okay,
And
great.
so she has been actually getting information from all of us, and we have been passing that along to CEDM, and I'm kind of on hold. I was considering the same thing, but if they're going to manage that and then we get
Yeah.
better rates because we go in as a whole conservation district, or, of Michigan.
Yeah.
It might be better. So that was the only reason I
Mhm.
I had the same thoughts, so not to interrupt, but yes.
Cool, yeah, and even just, I think it would just be valuable to get our, like, some level, even if it's, you just ask them what, like, get their input in some way
Yes.
about what's valuable to them.
Oh, and yes, I'm sorry, you're absolutely correct. So that was, once I can get some things put in place with what's affordable through the finance committee, I would solicit their input before I even, and that way I can bring that to you, and this is what our staff feels that would be best for them.
Okay, awesome.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank
I'm
you.
not done.
Any
Sorry.
questions?
I'm a guy with 100 questions tonight. So, like Rivka said, this is for the employees. We're the board, so,
Mhm.
but it's these guys' future. So could you share your presentation with Megan so she can show her employees?
Yes, ironically, I usually email it before or after. I don't know why I didn't before, but I always email it after, but Sarah has it,
I
because
have
this
it
is
in
her
there.
laptop, so.
Okay.
I can show
Alright.
you. Yeah.
So I didn't know that, and
Yep.
I'm thinking of these guys, we say yes on this. And you did say that you'll come in periodically and somebody comes in, but each one of these guys are individual. You
Yeah.
got single people, married people with kids,
Mhm,
and do you sit down with them? How they're, what's best for them to
mhm. So let me-
invest in the low or the high?
Well, let me backtrack. So this, I would say, is our first of a couple meetings, even if it's with the employer only, can help you guys brainstorm, but also some groups set up like second or third meeting, let's bring the employees in and let's just present this exact same thing to the employees, because then you can hear their questions too. So we can also do that. We can do an employee meeting, whether it moves forward or not. We want you guys to be able to feel like everybody has heard the same thing. Secondly, we give the investment options to the participants. We give them the resources like the financial fitness tool to kind of plug in the numbers. We don't have financial advisors on hand to tell somebody how much to save and where to invest. Those are very personal decisions, and there's obviously probably more to it.
But give them the points.
We give them
right?
the points, yep, yeah, so we can help them. When we show them the detail of the investments, this one has more stocks in it, or more bonds, more aggressive, less aggressive. And that's also where our education specialist comes into play also. She can, again, tell that story to everybody, so they all hear the same thing, but she can stay after or, meet individually as well.
For the education stuff, is that kind of some of the things that are covered under like the webinars and stuff like that? If you have an employee who really is invested and wants to, learn all they can, it seems like you have pretty robust informational materials.
Yeah, it's investment specific, it's product specific, you might know more, but yeah.
We
it's
have
detailed.
webinars on estate planning, financial wellness, because we recognize that if folks are, living paycheck to paycheck, the idea of putting money away from retirement is kind of intimidating. So helping them navigate that day-to-day spending and stuff is really in their best interest so that they can become secure in retirement.
Also, in addition to the presentation, the information I brought today, because I always think it's nice to also have a leave behind. On the left side is the summary of our investments as of Q1. I pulled it off our website, so it shows, their proportion in stocks, their fees and their return history. And then, the book that details each fund individually, so somebody could see the allocations of the fund. And then, each product we talked about, this is one of our companion books, has got a lot of detail of each fund. But then to kind of consolidate it, I also like this one pager that we've created to kind of side by side the similarities and differences of each plan. So this is all leave behind information that I thought some people might want to look at. Beneficiary information, that rollover chart is in here. Can I roll over a plan? So there are these charts that tell you yes or no. So I just thought this would be helpful to leave behind too, in addition to the presentation. I almost printed the presentation today, because I'm always kind of like, does people want the presentation in front of them? But then I kept all this away from you so you could listen to the presentation and then have everything later.
Don't forget, this is recorded, so I could always share the presentation with everyone too.
Any more questions, Doug?
No, I'm sorry. I'm doing it for these guys.
I-
Good.
myself.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
you're good, I'm
I'm
good.
ready to cash out.
There you go. Any questions on the presentation?
Good.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, thanks for
You're
having us.
welcome to stay, you're welcome to go, you're in. So.
We got one good.
do your
Yes,
thing.
we do.
Yeah,
Yes, we do.
Thank you so much.
You bet.
Thank you for having us.
I'm
Hour and
unlock the-
15 minutes, right?
A little longer,
Oh.
little longer.
Congratulations.
It's like an hour and
Go ahead and move
40
on to the,
to DeWitt where we met and then home from there.
program. I'm not looking up.
Where are we going to?
And it's gonna end.
Ben and Sarah?
Yep.
All right, did we get done with the monthly program highlights?
No, that's the
All right.
second part of it.
Did we get done with executive director's report?
Yes.
All righty. Then we will move on to, okay, Ben and Sarah.
You got one of the old ones?
I'm gonna take.
So-
Yeah, there's.
You guys don't want to stare at yourselves, I'm assuming during the meeting?
No.
Don't
There's
need to
nobody
do that now.
listening in, right?
No one's listening,
Yeah.
so. Okay.
So I will keep our update fairly brief. I'll just give you some details on what we've been up to the last quarter or so, and then I really want to focus a couple minutes on some of the upcoming things we're pretty excited about. Number one, we just submitted a quarterly report last week. It was spring, early summer, so really the only BMPs we had was some no-till plantings in Crocker and Sand. Ended up getting about 700 acres, which is an uptick from last year, which is nice. Plus, we have a couple other landowners that just didn't get me information in time for this last quarter, so we might end up close to about 1,000 acres. Which again is not huge numbers, but in terms of our program, that could be about double what we did last year. The cover crops is still the big program, I think, in these grants, but the no-till stuff is getting a little bit more popular, which is nice. We did, I think, 2 septic systems. Another couple applications pending, so that program is just kind of chugging along. We don't really have to do a whole lot of outreach or education for it, although we are talking about doing some workshops and things like that in the future, just to get the information out there. Even though we are currently running out of money in sand crockery for BMPs and for septic, but it's
The
still
workshop.
nice.
Yeah, the workshops would be more of like educational
Yeah.
wise, rather than like, oh, we have money, would be more of a, how do you even take care of septic?
Yeah, but especially up in Muskegon County too, so we still can't fund septics in Muskegon County, but Sarah really had the idea to do these educational workshops to at least just get the information out there, and a lot of folks still don't know they have septic systems, still don't know what it is, that they have to pump them and all that, so it is definitely worthwhile to do that. So that's kind of what I think the last quarter entailed, a lot of the same. We went to the Berlin Fair last week, talked to some folks there. It's been good to us in the past in terms of people, seeing the programs we offer and then applying to them. We've had like several septic applications come directly from that, which is nice, but yeah, programs.
This is
just-
what I want you to focus on.
Yeah, I know. I was
Okay.
just getting a really brief update on the last.
Okay,
quarter.
I'm sorry. I was
Yeah.
like, wait a minute, we're going off a different track and.
So that's what we've been up to, but the big thing that we wanted to focus on was this county money that I talked to the finance committee about, a couple weeks ago. So Ottawa County, a couple months ago, got a check in the mail for almost $7 million. It was part of a legal settlement that involved Monsanto. And it was something like, it was $250 million settlement, huge, huge money.
In Ottawa County?
No, it's a big settlement. The
Like-
money then from this settlement got distributed to different municipalities and different groups that had TMDL watersheds. So it had to do with, pollution mitigation. I don't know all the details. I'm not even gonna attempt to explain why the money went to here or there, but Ottawa County has a lot of TMDL watersheds. We have a lot of impaired watersheds, and so whatever algorithm they use to figure out who gets what, we ended up getting a check, or Ottawa County got a check for almost $7 million. The language of that settlement really focused on those TMDL watersheds. This money should be used for that, right? Mitigating pollution, addressing those concerns, and ultimately, I know a couple of the counties, I think Muskegon County, Allegan County, some of the other counties around here have kind of just decided they're gonna use that money for whatever. Maybe it will go towards some projects like that. Joe Bush was actually the one that got wind of this check first. He reached out to us immediately and got on top of things. His thinking was like, I don't know what the county might want to do with it, but we've been great partners. We know all the things that you guys do for water quality and these TMDL watersheds. So his thought was, let's get a plan in place as quickly as we can to basically present to the county and say, hey, this is how we would like to use a portion of that money. So, in partnership with us and with the ODC, with Kelly Goward down there, we put together basically a 5-year plan that we wanted to promote to the county that would involve monitoring in literally every watershed that touches Ottawa County, and a little bit for BMPs, and then some auxiliary things too, some money that would go toward some work that needs to be done on the landfill, and some things that the county kind of wants, sort of like bones we wanted to throw to them. But the big thing was this 5-year monitoring plan and a 5-year BMP plan. So what this is gonna entail, and we have these basically an outline, and it's all kind of subject to change, right? This is just something we're promoting to the county. But we can kind of talk some of the items through with them, negotiate a little bit, eventually hopefully get contracts signed. But the idea is our district would get a pretty significant amount of money from this to pay for our wages. Obviously, mostly Sarah and I would be the one that would actually work on this, to do monitoring throughout the whole county. We're talking, literally every metric we could possibly throw into that. In the past, we've had to apply for these grants, we've had to apply for this funding, right? We had to compete for every grant we've ever written. And if we do add monitoring, it's some E. coli and a couple little metrics here and there. With this proposal, we were able to look at all of the different watersheds throughout the county and kind of parse out okay, this watershed here, the Crockery, for example, just throwing that out there, it has not had a fish survey done in 20+ years, right? We really don't have any modern data. There's lots of other watersheds that have really minimal data all across the board. And so we looked at that and we put together this plan and basically said, over the next 5 years, these are all the watersheds that need this monitoring done and this monitoring done. And we kind of just threw everything we could at the board, came up with a budget, came up with this proposal, and now we're presenting that to the county, hopefully at the finance committee meeting next week. And then the BMP side of things, again, right now we have these grants, we have one for Sand Crockery, but as of right now, today, we don't have any other funding for any of the other watersheds. RCPP funding, same thing. They've pretty much run out of money for BMPs, right? So this gave us an opportunity to, and I laughed a little bit because every year that I was here, that Lester was also a board member, he would always ask, are you guys ever going to get some kind of funding for countywide cover crops, right? And this is our opportunity to do that. So we put that in our 5-year BMP plan, that we would have a certain amount of money. I think it's almost $1 million that would go toward, cover crops, reduce tillage, maybe some manure projects. We kind of decided against adding anything in there for septic. It just didn't quite make sense to do any sort of a countywide thing. But it's gonna go beyond the borders of these 319 grants. We'll know that we'll have it for an entire 5 years. And again, this proposal would pay for the wages for for us to do education outreach, technical assistance. We also threw money in there for a lot of the educational opportunities that we provide, so like the Cultivating Resilience Field Day, we added a few grand in there to help pay for events like that. All the workshops we wanna do in the future, if we wanna just do a winter cover crop thing, we would have money in this. From the county to provide workshops like that more regularly to the people out of county. Yes,
So you have not taken this, you haven't taken your idea back to the board has not.
the board
Divvied the
has,
money yet.
so they have that sheet.
They have this, so Joe Bush has been working with, John Gibbs.
Yep.
And when this money came through, he started to put parameters on it almost immediately, so he started working with
John or
John.
Joe,
Joe started working with John,
who put the
And-
parameters?
Joe.
Okay.
Because it was meant for this type of work,
Yep.
we really quickly wanted to make sure, hey, this is what this was for. And so started to put some parameters on it. And so then Gibbs comes back and says, well, what about the landfill? What about these oil drums? What about this? And so he brought that stuff back to us. He's asking about all these things. So, okay, so we then, how can we provide some resources or some, solution that gets them what they need, but also keeps it in this sphere. And so he's working with Gibbs. Then he takes it to Moss and Gibbs and maybe Sylvia Rhodes as well.
Well, she's gotta be in there.
And so they had that conversation as well. And so they know that this is all in the works, and it's a really pretty positive. They're really water quality driven. So feeling like this last proposal, he just took to Gibbs and they changed some things. We didn't have the closing of the oil drums in there originally, but that's now in there.
Oil wells or?
Oil wells, excuse me. And so there was just some things that they wanted, and they thought this money would be good for. Doesn't quite fall in water quality, but it still fits the umbrella. It's important, right? We do need all that. So I feel like we all feel like it's a really strong proposal.
Good.
So we're gonna take it to the finance committee next week.
Hopefully,
As long as there's a lot of politics, obviously, right now going on in the county, nothing's moving super fast. But right now we are on the schedule, so unless something gets bumped or moved, which then means it would be voted on at that board meeting at the beginning of next month.
Do we know who sits on the finance committee?
Yeah, I can't remember.
honestly, I can't remember.
No, I don't remember.
Sure, it's on the county website.
But the idea
Yeah,
is
I
that
hope
we would
so.
actually sit in on that meeting.
Yeah,
and
so it'd be myself,
answer any
then
questions.
Sarah and Kelly. That would be present, answer technical questions, that type of stuff, but it's been positively received.
yeah.
It would make it so we are unentangable, like they can't stop funding our operational costs, like, if the more that we become, the less they're gonna be able to untangle us. And so
I would
that,
say that about the health department, but.
but that's my
I'm
hope.
glad that they're.
Yeah.
When I sat next to Allison, I cannot remember them, it wasn't Sylvia,
Lucy
it was
Evil.
Gretchen
Okay.
and
Lucy
Lucy.
Evil.
Yeah. They were really pleasantly surprised.
Mhm.
And we were just having a really nice conversation and just finishing and doing all that. So,
No, they
um,
like us, I mean, especially they're happy.
yeah, they were good. I felt good about it. So, I would say that something like this, if it allows, this is where board support be helpful. Like, you guys can sit in there and say what you want to say about the programs, but I think having a board member or two in the room would also be beneficial. That's my thought. It would just bolster it even more. That would be my recommendation, is to really pull out all the stops. Because they could spend it anyway, sounds like, right? I mean, they don't have to necessarily spend it on these bundles, right? If they don't want to.
No, it's their money to spend however they want to.
I'm
Yeah,
curious to
I
know.
think it would be helpful, like, either Doug being in the room from the financial standpoint could be helpful for them being able to answer more financial questions. Or Matt or I are on the legislative committee technically. But whatever, like, you feel like is the most support to you guys, but it looks like a really solid plan and a really good proposal. I'm excited that Joe Bush has been such an advocate for us. That's fantastic that
It's-
partnership is
This
strong.
was all from him, all
Um,
spearheaded by him.
So,
That's
and one thing to mention too is, I mean, we have more detailed information than this too. We wanted to make sure that they knew, you know, where every dollar was being spent. I mean, and we put together estimates for, you know, the subcontracts for GVSU to do all the various testing that we're gonna ask them to do over the next 5 years with these samples. And we really tried to put together as much information as possible so the county knew that we weren't just asking, hey, can we have $4 million? And I think we're gonna spend it on this and this and this. And we had it nailed down just the same way we would when we put together a budget for a grant. The other nice thing to mention too is, even though the 319 grants that we work on are really flexible, really easy to work with, they still have their limitations, right? And you still have a lot of red tape, and any landowner that's worked with us knows that there's all sorts of limitations to do this practice or that. This is gonna be county money, and this is gonna give us a lot more leeway in terms of what practices we can pay for. I mean, you don't have those guidelines saying like, oh, technically you can't pay for that because of this, this, and this. So if we get this money, this BMP money especially, and we see a project that we like, that we know is gonna have a positive water quality impact, but it's something that Eagle might not, you know, approve if it was a 319 grant, well, we can do it. And we can, you know, greenlight it. So that's, I think, the thing that's most exciting for me is just to have that money and flexibility.
The other piece that I think is exciting is that with this money, it can be used as match for future projects, and finding match for projects is there.
Yeah.
So the idea that for the next 5 years, we have automatic match, that's something else too. So it's just, it's all around, I'm very excited.
And I
about
was
it.
gonna ask, like, because we can get so much more data collection than we've had in the past, I have to believe that that's
That
gonna make us
also makes
more
it more
competitive.
competitive, 100%.
Because when we're creating additional grants, we have way more information.
I got a question with data collection.
Yeah.
What good are we gonna do for 5 years? We know it's bad. How do we fix it?
That'll be through those future grants that we try to write, and it'll
Let's use
also,
this money to fix.
well,
I'm a
we'll
boots on the
use,
ground guy.
Some of it will be, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
that's-
we'll
there's 2 million
use-
Of it to be BMPs,
Yeah.
to fix the problem.
so this monitoring data will help.
Yeah, I get that. I support that.
Yeah.
But why collect all this data? What is that what is that doing for us? We know
I'll
it's
add-
bad. We gotta fix it.
I'll add to that too, collecting the data, just knowing, obviously what's in the water, but also where is important. If we can collect the data, we can collect it from certain areas, we can target where the problems are the worst, and then we
But-
can be
but
able
now
to
you're
focus that
regulatory.
money. Well, we're not regulatory, we're just knowing for our own information, saying, well, these are, we don't know who it's coming from, because it's still non-point source pollution, so. If we know, we do the same thing for our E. coli monitoring, we can target, oh, this branch of the watershed had a lot more, human septic, so we
That's
know we
what-
should try to,
Now that you know that, what can you do with that?
we can focus.
There is money in this, Tim, to be able to
Mhm.
go after some
Yes.
of that.
Mhm.
How do you do that?
Well, again, they can't. go
Outreach,
the
we
whole formula,
communicate
but
with
there's
people.
a slice in there that is going to be boots on the ground stuff, like you said. They're not conformed into just monitoring, it's, okay, now we found it, I mean, this thing's gonna take five plus years to roll out. You know, I would say at year probably 2, 3, 4, we're gonna know where we have a problem and be able to start chasing that down or start to make the change.
Because it's not enough money to just fix all the things across the
Get that.
board. And so this helps us prioritize, helps us have the research to convince future grants that this is worth investing in compared to not just things within Ottawa County, but competitive grants where we're competing against all of Michigan or even all of the Midwest. And like, I definitely see that.
To answer your question, Tim, because it don't work that way. Government wants to spend
That's
3/4
my problem.
of the
That's my
money-
problem.
3/4 of the money on where, how, and why, and who, and then
And 2% on how to fix it.
on how to fix it. So again, that's
Well,
not
well,
a great
this
answer.
is
To mention though, the
really expensive
BMP
for-
section of this is bigger than the monitoring section. So again, the monitoring is gonna let us target where those BMPs should be spent, right? So if we find a tributary, you know, let's say again, we go monitor, you know, some watershed that we don't have some, you know, lack of data on now, we find one tributary is pretty bad with, you know, this pollutant or that. Then we can create some sort of a prioritization process, same way we do with the 319 grants, to do a lot of outreach in that tributary, reach out to those landowners, get them on board, offer them cost share. Maybe at a higher rate than somebody else in a different part of the watershed would get. So we do the same thing with 319 grants. We use the monitoring data to target where the outreach education needs to be done and then where the BMP dollars need to be spent.
Okay, so this is a hypothetical question.
Yeah.
There's a tributary going off a stream.
Yeah.
And there's a pig farm on the end of it.
Yeah.
We figure out that there's a lot of E. coli coming down that stream.
Yeah.
So we targeted that branch. How are we gonna fix it? We're non-regulatory. We can't come to the farmer and say, you got a problem.
Well, we
can't
can.
do- How can you?
We just can't tell him he has to do it.
Yeah,
We
I
can just
mean,
tell him like, this is what's
yeah,
happening.
yeah.
We have money that could help you
Yeah.
fix it. Are you interested?
But
And he's
ultimately,
not interested. Now what? do
then
we
he's
do?
not,
Then you don't do
then
anything.
he's not, exactly, I mean,
Take
Move
your
on to the
purse and
next
go
thing.
home.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, we
Yeah.
can't- we're not
And,
regulatory.
and the same problem with Crockery Lake is there's a lot going on with like trying to establish their lake improvement board, and there's a lot of debate about testing. I think this would help with testing. It would alleviate some of the future costs that are probably gonna get rolled into that restoration. And right now, they know they have problems, but they don't know where they're coming from. Or which tributary into the lake that it's coming from. They've got a guess of where the issues are coming from, but they don't know for sure. And so you kind of have to know for sure, and then when you do, then you can.
You still can't fix it.
Okay, in the essence of time, no, we ain't gonna be able to fix things, but I mean,
Very quickly, would you mind please sending me the information about the finance committee if I'm able to? I'm trying to get it.
I have one more quick question.
all right,
I'm assuming because this settlement is way bigger, like we're getting 7 million out of a huge pool. I'm guessing some of it's going to our sister counties or other, like, is there been any conversation with other conservation districts or with MACD to try to, even if we were, to provide this as a model to other counties so they can effectively do the same thing?
so what I'll say. On that front is. We hit the ground running so quickly. And especially with some of the politics that's happening in Ottawa County right
Mhm.
now, our main focus right now is just to get this through as quickly as we
Mhm.
can. And I don't think we really have the time
Well,
to
I
be
mean,
honest.
I'm your
to-
Region 7 rep.
Yeah,
but-
I get.
That's what I'm saying, like,
Yeah, and that's the other thing too.
But-
wait a minute,
like,
no,
is it
your focus,
helpful?
your
I'm not
focus.
saying you guys do a different thing. I'm saying, is it helpful for like me to reach out to MACD and be like, hey, other conservation districts should be getting ahead of this?
I think right now we're trying to kind of keep it on the down.
Okay.
As well, because I don't want our county administrators to feel pressure too, if
yeah.
all of a sudden the word is out that Ottawa County is doing this and this and this.
Right.
Now they feel, I don't know, sort of betrayed that we're out there
Yes.
telling people about this money we don't have yet, so.
Yeah, so seal the deal first
Yes.
and then.
I think
share it
that's
tomorrow.
hugely important, and Ben and Sarah's job don't go outside the county.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Well, and that's
Well,
why I'm
so-
asking the
This,
question,
this
right?
money was given to counties,
Right,
was given to
but I'm
counties.
just
What-
saying like,
What these counties choose to do with it, Ottawa County
right,
is doing their due diligence and actually spending on what it should be spending on.
yeah.
But they didn't say you gotta use this 7 million on, they just said, here's some money.
Right.
once they sign the contracts, I'm
Yeah.
all for it.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, and that's
You
what I'm
got, you
thinking. is
gotta
it's
believe
all
Muskegon County
connected,
and
right?
their,
I
and
don't,
their.
who knows what Muskegon
financial
or Allegan
mishap.
or.
All right, we're gonna move on to the next one.
Okay.
Congratulations, good job.
Excellent.
Let us
Good
know.
luck.
Thanks.
Good luck.
Okay,
Monthly program highlight.
we did all that. Now we're at financials. Let's get out of here.
Oh, is this
No,
the
that's,
program?
that was just kind of like that.
Well, I asked you about that. All right, finance committee, June reconciliations, fire away.
Okay, so this is in order. So you're gonna open up your financial piece. It looks like that. And I'm gonna go through it one by one. Okay, this is our checking account reconciliation for the last month. It shows you payrolls. It shows you checks we've had to pay out. So all of our checks are here. One of the things that you had mentioned, Doug, that I thought was interesting, and I just realized it's only on the bank account reconciliations that they don't have
Right.
the names. So I was like, I just didn't put that together. Anyway, so this is our checking account reconciliation. Then the next thing you'll see is our savings account reconciliation. So what has come in and out of our savings account for the last month. The next thing you see is our profit and loss with a year-by-year comparison.
Topper, if you have any questions on any of this stuff,
Yes.
people.
So this one is, it shows you where we were at this time last year in comparison to this year. So that is the first piece. You see the funds that have come in so far this year in the different categories. So within our district operations, our MDARD funds, our West Michigan SISMA funds. We hold that small treasurer funds for the West Michigan Conservation Network. Our technical NACD grant, some sub-grants we had with the MAC, those are finishing up. And then our watershed projects as well as our RCPP. As of to date, we have brought in a total of 1.1 million, a little over 1.1 million. So a little higher than last year. The next thing you see is our expenses.
I have a quick question, just, I know it's not a huge dollar amount, but the reconciliation discrepancy is.
It's a payroll error. Mhm. So I need to have my auditor, she'll fix that up in there.
Okay.
But that's what that was.
Just, are you using like QuickBooks? Okay, I was gonna say, there's some software that that you can use, that you can try to reconcile like daily or something like that. But that's probably outside of our means. But I think small discrepancies like that are probably not that big of a deal, right?
No, my.
You handle $1 million and only have $100 in
That's pretty good.
discrepancies. That's pretty
What
damn
happens is
good.
I leave them here until the auditor comes and then she puts them in the correct spaces. So that's it. I don't, with the payroll discrepancy, I have to kind of just hold. Yeah, because there's taxes involved and all
Yes.
that jazz.
Oh, okay.
With the general expenses, you see where we're at both years. They're very similar, a little more this year than the last year, but similar spending. MAPE expenses, very similar. Invasive species are what we've spent, similar. HWA, a little less than we did the year previously. Reforestation, we spent a little more, but very similar.
Is reforestation your tree sale?
Trees and plants.
Okay.
Our 319 expenses, again, very similar. Produce safety, we didn't have it last year, so that's brand new. NACD, has been more, but that is because we, took on 2 techs and the, Allegan Conservation District had given us funding. And then the RCPP, again, it's a little more, but that's based on the timing of when the RCPP started last year as a comparison to this year. Expenses this year, we've had expenses in the range of $1,043,103. So it kind of gives you an idea of what's coming in and out of the district at the current moment. On the backside is our balance sheet. Our balance sheet gives you a snapshot look of what is in our current checking and savings account to date today as in compared to last year, as well as accounts receivable. So what I have right now out in the world to be reimbursed to us. And then some other current assets that's all furniture, computer type stuff. And then you can see kind of where our assets fall. We also have our liabilities, so payroll up to date, taxes that have been incurred, that that type of thing. They're all listed out there. And then it gives us our total liabilities and equity. We're a little far higher than we were last year. We're at 288,000. Where last year we were at 231. This information is what I use to build when we take a look at our close the door funds, which we'll get to, but I just kind of wanted to go through it. I think,
We need a motion to accept this, correct?
yeah, so we can do that next. That's what I do.
Okay, I make a motion to accept the bank reconciliation and bank payment.
Second.
Been moved in second. Those in favor say aye.
I,
Opposed. Accepted.
So one of the things that we found ourselves in this last quarter was cash flow issues. So we've had some conversations with the finance committee, and I have been working really hard at trying to figure out the best way to forecast our cash flow and to get a really solid idea of what I can say yes to, when, and when we spend money the most. This time of year, when we hire our SISMA crew, and SISMA takes on the work they do, we always spend more money. As you know, we're reimbursement based, so that, can get really heavy really quickly. There were several things that happened over this last quarter, not one specific one individual thing, but I think several accumulated. So we had several grants that, we did not get in the timing that we are supposed to get them. So that put us in a real pickle. We were carrying 2 soil techs for a minute, and Kyle was leaving and I hired Tracy. We had our SISMA crew come in, so we hired all of our SISMA and bought all the supplies and the chemicals. But I think the largest piece of all of this, more than anything else, is that I'm spread too thin. I'm not focused on it the way I should be. And I think that this could have been avoided, and I could have known a little more when to say yes and no, and made this a little less scary. There was a point at the end, beginning of June, when we weren't sure we're gonna make payroll. So, Doug and I talked, we stopped and I talked with the finance committee, and, we're putting in some checks and balances that can help us not find ourselves in this place again. The first thing that we decided to do was to open a separate savings account. And in that account, put in a dedicated amount every month. Right now, I am budgeting $5,000 a month to go into this dedicated account, see how that.
Day fund type thing.
For the next, at least for the next, few months, and then see how this looks and increase it if we can increase
It's
it.
kind of like an escrow account, more or less,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, we also, played around with this forecast sheet. When I first made it, and it was working okay, it was monthly. And it was a lot of like roundabouts and estimates in a sense, like guesstimate slash estimate. It wasn't a total guess, but it wasn't accurate. So what I changed was this is now set up for payroll. So, and it is exact amounts of the funds that have been submitted for reimbursement and when they're expected to be due. So then I can have a much better picture in a one snapshot picture to know if things are going smoothly, if the funds have come in, if I need to follow up, if I need to lean on someone. I mean, so that something that happens quite often is the delay in grantors reimbursing. It's really unfortunate and it's very frustrating, but it happens a lot. And at this time of year, it can't happen for us. So, I need to make sure my eyes are really on it. The other thing that happens, then the other thing that I needed to make sure is that I understood what I know what our bills are, right? Like the things we pay every month, like our truck and so those needed to be set. But then the other thing, so I needed to know where my flexibility was in each one of the programs. Like, I know what their budgets are. You have $1,500 in your budget for training. Do I have $1,500 in my cash flow this quarter to give you that training? So that was a piece that I didn't really have a solid feel for. So I went back for the last 2 years. So looked at each quarter for the last 2 years to try to get a feel for where we spent the most money and the timing of those years. So that helped me initially. And then I took a look at where we're at today to give me a budget amount to stay within. So if Sarah says, hey, Megan, I need to get, an outreach board for an event I'm hosting, it costs $200 and the mileage is 60. I can look and say, I have that in the cash flow budget. I know it's in a program budget. That's not my problem. So my problem wasn't that I know I can get reimbursed for it. Do I have it in the cash flow to flow it? I know now that if I need to buy computers and I need to buy bigger items, I need to do that in the first and second quarter, not in the third and fourth quarter. I need to, so some of those pieces, I think, were part of what happened in this last quarter. One of the things that I thought was interesting, and I can pull out if you guys are interested in it, but I did go back and look at what we spend in a quarter. And I compared it to what we have done in the last few years. And I just wanted to pull it out.
Can I interrupt? So
Yeah.
You're trying to do a month or quarterly cash flow
Bi-weekly.
projection?
Well,
by
this
pay
is,
period.
this is my pay period for me to know our cash flow. But then I went back to look at our quarterly expenses. Because that really interested me. How much am I carrying and how much different was this from last year? And, you know, what, because I didn't feel like there was any big number one thing. I really didn't. But so I do think a lot of it came down to the grantors paying on time, because you will see, if I go back, we just never quite been so. It hasn't quite come down to that hair, but we have always had a hard time at this time of year. So I thought this was interesting. This quarter, we carried $381,000 of expenses. Last year at this quarter, we carried $395,000 of expenses. The year prior, $289,000, and the year prior to that, $154,000. We're growing. I mean, and so what happens is, I think that it happened kind of quickly where there isn't much flexibility left there. Where in the past, we've had so much more, I didn't feel it this way.
Well, I know you wanna do the savings too, but I know that some businesses will sometimes have like a line of credit.
Well, and that's the other
So-
piece that I haven't quite got to that, but that's the other piece we're putting into place is the
I
line
mean,
of credit.
that's not exactly what.
I hope we never use it.
But
We already talked about that.
But it
She's
needs
gonna
to
do
happen.
that. She's gonna do
Let's
that
have it
for an emergency.
Yes,
Yeah.
if we ever, I never want to find
Yeah.
myself not being able to pay my staff.
Do you ever fear that a grant will not come through, period?
Well, the
We had a
thing-
couple days this past month.
Yeah. That's just a couple of days, but what if all of a sudden that funding disappears? What do we do?
Yeah, well, there is that. Funding has never disappeared in that way. They've never not given it to us. Sometimes they're just really freaking slow. I don't know. I think what a lot of grantors don't realize is that entities like us, like the conservation district, we are not this private already funded entity. And so when I submit a report and I have to wait 45 days to get it, so I'm not really carrying expenses for 3 months. I'm carrying expenses for 4.5 months before I get reimbursed for those prior 3 months. And now I'm already ready to reimburse
the next
again. So it's just, it's such a balancing act, and there are some that do advances. So like I have gotten advances on some and I have reimbursements. This is, I think, really gonna help me. It's not only gonna help me, it's gonna help all of you make decisions. Because now we're gonna have a much better feel for what we can do, physically, as well as what fits within the budgets. And the timing of years, when in the year to make bigger purchases. So if we decide, let's say we decide we want to purchase a car in 2 years or whatever that might be, this will help us figure that.
Don't do it in June.
Don't do it in the third quarter of the year. or the fourth quarter.
Have you reviewed the information that I gave you? I think it was called Michigan Class, where it's like you can invest 3, 6, 9 months out.
Oh, there's no investment.
Yeah, no, but yes, if we could make a savings.
Yeah.
The other piece that I'm doing, so like I said, I have been spread too thin, and that is 100% the bottom line. I don't think this would have happened if I wasn't hiring the last 4 quarters, if I wasn't planning an annual meeting, if I wasn't going to trainings, I mean, I have been working 60 hours a week. I mean, consistently for at least 2 months. The hiring, I think we did 71 interviews. That's 71 hours. Not only all the time you put into it and all the time you pull out of it. So like, I think I am working. So my hope is then, as we move forward, to work with the finance committee and the HR committee with my position description to make it very clear, what do we need to move off of my position description? And how are we going to disperse it amongst the staff? And then what is that going to look like as we move forward? So that's my 2 months focus is specifically how we're going to spread that work out. So this runs smoother, because this can't be this. this needs to be a considerable amount. It should be my only job. But it probably more like a third of my job.
I've mentioned that, you're taking on 2 roles. You're like executive director
I'm
and
taking on
business,
3 roles
business operations.
And HR.
and HR. It's 3 full-time jobs. 16 employees. is no
The
joke.
fact that you can do it in 60 hours a week is impressive.
I think so too, but 16 employees is no joke. That's a full HR person. I mean, it's not an in-between thing.
Do you need, because I know you took, Lexi's role has kind of changed, but I think you need. To be honest, I think you need
I
like.
don't
an
think you know what
HR.
I need. I don't think anyone knows what I need yet, and I'm not being
Good
rude.
question.
But the thing is, what I want to do these next 2 months is I want to figure that out. What I want is I want to take all those roles that I play. I want to figure out what we do need so we can make an accurate decision on how we're gonna hire and where we're gonna invest the money that we were gonna invest in a communications person. And we need to decide how that's gonna be.
There.
That's later.
Well, first of all,
Yes, it is.
no one took it. No one took the job. Thank God, actually. But,
Yeah,
Are you
Um,
serious?
yeah.
we offered it to 2 people and both of them turned it down. So now we're pausing on
One person
hiring.
said yes, and then at the last minute said.
All right,
no.
let's get back on tour. Sorry, how you fix
But
it?
I wanna
We're-
add something to this.
So that's where I'm at, and that's what I'm moving forward to do over these next 2 months, so that I can bring these position descriptions, these role movements, where I think we can take that funding that we were gonna put into someone and how that's gonna be dispersed. And who, and how we can do this work. So that's really needs to be my next steps, and I have plenty of time to do it right now. I don't have to plan an event, I don't have to hire anybody. This is my time for budgets and HR, so I am hoping to present to the HR committee, the finance committee, HR committee options. Towards the end of this month, beginning of August, and then bring it to the full board in September, so you guys then can say, okay, here's what I know now, this is as far as I've gotten with the time I've had. But,
It's really helpful. Good
I
work.
think it will give us, I think it's gonna help you guys make decisions too. So then when we come to you and I say, can we do MERS? And I'm gonna have that thought out. You guys can make decisions on whether or not, 1, does it fit in our budgets? 2, does it fit in our cash flow? 3, how does it look in the future? So we're at a size now that is kind of unprecedented. So I think that's the hardest part.
When you get top heavy, pretty soon you have to grow because you put people on.
Right.
Or you have to downsize and deal with what you have. You
Well,
can't be in the middle.
No, so there's just a lot of thinking through all of this and taking a look at what can we hold on? What are our absolute needs? What do we have to have? What are like, those yellow areas, and what are the things we can put away for a while that we don't need to touch?
So here's a question. We talked about this 2 or 3 months ago. We said, do we want to grow? And we said, no.
Mhm.
But now we want to take on more funding. Isn't that growth?
No, it's stability, because they have no funding
That's
coming in.
Future for
Yeah.
those.
At the end of next year,
There's
We
some.
want
their jobs are done.
I also wanna
It
mention
jumps
too,
right into the building,
To
right?
go backwards, all this proposal that we were talking about, those would be advanced. Rather than reimbursements, we would advance those probably 1 year at a time, so.
Yeah, that's.
So it's
what
not
you
the same
need,
cash
right?
flow
Give it a
Yes,
advance, not-
yeah.
Mhm.
Well, we've seen the problem and we know, and we do have time to work on it.
Yep.
So we're in a good place.
It's not
We
horrible.
have been looking at a savings account for the last 1.5 to 2 years. And we have finally drew the line in the sand
Doing it.
and we're doing it. I mean, so we are
Well, and I'm
gonna
making.
put money away every month and
That's a
that's,
good point.
it's hell or high water, that gets checked, gets wrote first.
Yes.
So it ain't no different than in our own home budgets when.
Yep.
When there ain't
We're
no
trying
gas
to-
in the tank, you gotta stay home for the evening, so, so yeah, so we're basically doing the same.
Yes.
So like I say, you've
I'll
got it
give you
handled,
more.
let us know.
I'll give you more, but I wanted to make sure I have already been very, visible with the finance committee, but I wanted to make sure that you guys all knew what was happening.
I'm stealing one of these. 3 pens.
This guy is our close the door funds. You guys are familiar with it. It shows you where our grants are right now, every one of them. So what we spent, where we're at, and it's up to date to the end of this quarter. So that's nice. Our close the door funds are looking good. We shut everything today. We should be somewhere around $200,000. So that is still a nice piece of visual for all of you as well when it comes to grants. The last thing I had in here was our native plant sale reconciliation. We kind of hit it out of the park this year.
Made 46, right?
We made
Shall I
46
read
and
it?
we sold out in an hour and a half. So
fast.
it was
I
like,
saw that. You're like,
people were mad.
how are you doing away there?
They were
Like,
so
there's
mad.
no hope. Just admitted.
Yeah, they were really mad at us, but so there's lots of possibility there too. So that was fun.
I actually met someone this weekend that said that they purchased from the native plant sale. And I was just like, thank you so much.
Yeah,
So.
It was a lot of high energy. It was great. It was a lot of
So that is my finance report. I just said the only other piece on there was fiscal year budget. All that means is that, oh, I think I actually did include it in there. Did I include it?
It's appropriation budget.
Yeah.
piece.
This is our, is
This
it-
is this, this was just, it's just snapshot, nothing you guys have to do with it. This is our appropriation budget, which we voted on a while back in May. Our operations budget was $224,405. Our district budget is the next page, so this shows you where we are and how much we spent in each category. It's kind of been a little bit fluid in some senses, but this kind of gives you a snapshot of how we use that budget.
awesome.
And I'm gonna use this to help me form then next year's fiscal year budget. So it's really just information for you all to take home and digest.
ah, so you spent some of the money out of the marketing line, eh?
Yeah, like I said, I mean, we spend more on marketing, but I don't typically spend that district budget. But we did a lot of Facebook posts, boosts and stuff like that.
All right, on to human resources, correct?
Pause, there's
There's a
in
vote.
the middle was a
Yeah.
vote. that was
So
skipped.
the water monitoring funding, I should have put it up front on top and
Ah.
talked about it. I need you guys to say that you approve us going forward to take this contract to finance committee.
Lieutenant
I would like
Sayers,
to move that we take this forward to the county commission finance committee. Anyone second?
Second.
all those in support, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed. Oh, it's your marching orders.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So HR, the communication specialist, again, I kind of just covered. We're putting it on hold for a minute until I get these budgets and needs figured out. And so then we'll review what our needs are and how we're gonna move forward and what we need. So that's what the HR committee, had talked about because of where we were, one with cash flow and two with trying to figure out exactly what had happened and where I could use assistance.
Did these folks indicate why they weren't taking the
No,
position?
not, well, one uses totally as leverage to get more money and more hours in her current position. And that's the one that said yes and then said no. The other one was odd. We offered it to her. They both had second interviews. They both even had to do, they had to
Practical
do
test.
practical tests. And they went through a lot. And so the second one, this first one I offered it to, you know, I called her, I offered it to her. She said she'll think about it and call me back. And then she called me back and left a message and just said she's just gonna get declined. And I tried to call her back again just to see if I get some feedback and that was it. So it was really
What
disappointing.
kind of practical
frustrating.
tests were administered?
So we gave them, we told them to take a look at our website and our Facebook page. And we asked them to, give us several things that they would suggest and do in order to improve it.
It was basically a good way for like just me to evaluate how they evaluate marketing materials, right?
Good, it matches, because I've gone to job interviews where they wanted me to take a typing test.
Oh, yeah, no.
And it, you know, I'm saying it's whatsoever.
No, it wasn't a dumb.
It was like communications, like autocorrect. Okay, so what I think I wanna point out here is that I don't want you to lose sight of having a communication specialist. Because I think it's an important thing. Especially in, you know, I mean, and maybe this is where we need to start talking about having a communications committee again, where we pool all the resources of the staff that are, and the things that they're currently working on and kind of try to do that internally rather than hire somebody. if
And that
you're-
is exactly what
Yeah,
I'm
that's what
thinking
we're
about.
doing. It's tabled for 2-3 months and we figure out the other end of it. but it hasn't went away.
No,
I mean,
and I,
like
right
we
now,
discussed the last-
I have it distributed amongst the staff, so Sarah does website. And Morgan does the newsletter, Sarah and Morgan work on conservation updates. I have, all of these tasks are being done, all of these tasks are being done, I think, incredibly well. And right now, I just have them dispersed through my staff who likes it and works on it and feels.
The other
comfortable.
thing that you might not be aware of is, one of the things that, like, for me, was a really important thing that we needed to look at was overall, like, branding guide, style guide, all that
Yeah,
kind of
we don't really
information.
We have one, we
We
absolutely
do.
100%
So,
do. and I've given
there
this all
was,
to you.
there
A
is
branding
a,
guide?
It-
It was made for
was it in the
strategic
last-
impact by Rich Lakeberg.
yeah,
And part of the reason we
Yes.
gave them the award at the annual meeting,
yes.
I did pass it, I gave it to you guys several times
Yeah.
in your board packet.
So the, a couple, an outside company basically volunteered their time to do that for us. And so now that exists
It's done.
and it's created, and so the staff has something to go for. And I looked it over, it was great. I wouldn't have done it any differently myself if I did it.
Right, when was that then?
Probably February and March.
Yeah, it was
because I
part
sent
of
it
one of
twice.
the board packets, but,
Okay,
And I can resend it.
but it's
Um,
pretty good. It's really
It's a
helpful,
two-part
actually.
full booklet.
Yep.
Awesome. He did a fantastic job.
Yeah, I was
Okay.
really impressed with the quality of work.
Annual review.
Yeah, so interviews are coming up. And so this is just information for you all. Rivka and Doug with the HR committee will be sitting in on those with me. The third week of August. And then we'll bring all of that to you all in September for review and questions and answers with work agreements and all of that for the next fiscal year. So then you guys can make decisions on that. So it's just kind of information. Nothing crazy there.
Communications improvement.
So this was, Rick already kind of touched on it, but I wanted to see what you guys thought about the board report the last 2 months. Did you have feedback for us? Anything that you'd like to see differently? Did you like the board reports and how we set them up?
I thought it was a little bit more, it clicked a little bit more with what I was looking for. However, in the ones that I looked at, I think the staff need to get a little bit more creative on how the board can help them. Because we're here to help them, and there's probably got to be something that they could have help with. So I know that might be hard, but to think about, but and for you, you laid out things according to project a little bit more. That was a lot more helpful. So I did like that, yes.
Excellent. Anyone else?
I would say though that like. It like the branding guideline, like. That is something like if I would have known that was in there, maybe I missed it because I'm scanning through things like, I think separating things out still. Separating out documents that are all together.
Yeah, that was an interesting one because I think it was all very separated out.
Mhm.
Well, that was a,
We could have just missed it, but yeah, I'm happy to resend it.
no, don't worry about it. I'll look for it. If I can't find it, I'll.
Pam Evans,
Yeah.
her name surfaces again.
Yeah, well, back in February, I had her look at our, she looked at our policy handbook and made some, I had suggestions for additions. The suggestions were these 4 additions that I had sent to you all a few weeks ago. So this is really, do we want to add these to our policy? I see that they all have good merit. There's nothing in them that gives me any pause. I think they spell out good procedures for any of these areas. There's a few things that I'm gonna go back and look at when it comes to document destruction and making sure we're in line with MACD and the federal document piece. And then the sexual and unlawful harassment, we have this policy in our handbook, which I did print out in our employee handbook. We don't have it in the policy handbook for the board. So that's just if you guys want it in there. So that's what these are, and
So I guess my only
Probably
question
go
is,
one by one, maybe?
Do we have a problem with the one that's in our book now? You just mentioned.
I
sexual
don't,
harassment.
and I read it, I read through it, it's very similar, and we have a whole grievance policy to go through it, and I kind of to get rid of it.
Can we, because I didn't bring my thing this morning or afternoon.
Here,
Can we, I know the employee policy handbook might be in there.
here is the policy handbook one,
Okay.
and then here is the one that Pam wrote, and there should be a copy for everyone.
so my first question is about the document destruction procedure one, if we've gotten those FOIA questions answered yet, because I don't feel comfortable voting on that procedure unless we have those questions answered.
I don't have one. answer.
Okay. So then I would recommend that we
Wait.
depend on that, at least that one, because
Yeah.
otherwise.
Would
we're gonna put
anybody have a
ourselves in
problem if we
issue.
tabled them till next meeting, all four?
We have a lot next meeting, I mean, September's gonna be full budgets, I mean, I can table them, but unless,
If we can get our questions answered in between now and that meeting, so when we come to the meeting, we don't sit here and get long in the mouth on everything. I mean, if we can get all of our questions answered prior to, could we table them till next meeting? Would that be a problem with anybody?
Well, I have something to add to that, like. If someone wants to change something on one of those, then we table it again. Because Pam Evans, who was a professional, wrote them, we're not. So if we wanna agree to what she wrote, and I agree with Rebecca. If. We can table the one, but let's try to do the other ones and get rid of them.
I agree,
Yeah.
I don't wanna.
I,
put it
I agree,
next
unless
month.
there's a concern, we can table it,
What
but
about the election policy? I feel like that needs to be kind of gone over with a fine tooth comb. because
Well,
isn't
they
that
didn't need-
on
no,
the
so-
agenda
it's
for
not.
next
Okay.
meeting?
It's,
that
it's
like-
in-
It
it's
was
September or
included.
November,
It was
depending on,
included in our.
it was, cause I wanna
Yeah.
make sure you guys have time to go over it with. your
Read
friends.
it, yeah.
Okay. I mean, here's the thing about her policy that I noticed, it's not as thorough as this. I mean,
Yeah, we don't have to change it. It's
I
just
mean,
an
what
option.
are we adding her policy to?
Because it's not, that's in the employee personnel manual,
It
so
wouldn't replace that.
it wouldn't replace it. It would just then, hers was just this is her, that does not exist in the policy handbook for the board.
Mhm.
There is no, that does not exist in the policy handbook for the board.
So it's basically
Adding it
beefing
to
up the policy handbook for the board to be more comprehensive, just like the employee policies are more comprehensive.
Right.
Okay, so these are just for board members, the document destruction, the communication, the disclosure of information,
Yes,
sexual harassment.
correct.
It's
Alright.
just to improve our board policy.
Mhm.
It doesn't replace or change anything in the employment policies
Alright.
or.
Ripka and I didn't see anything wrong with the other ones.
This one only we tech FOIA questions and I haven't been able to go through.
Well, let's fire away then. Do you wanna separate them out and do one at a time, or do we gonna
think that's a
package
good
this up in a bowl and get her done? What is your board's pleasure?
I think I mean, to be honest, the sexual and other lawful harassment thing needs to be looked at a little bit more closely. I think it needs to be more than just sexual harassment. It should be maybe harassment and bullying based on,
Isn't that harassment?
broad.
I mean, ain't it all the same, or?
Do you like the language from the employment handbook?
I do.
So should
All
we
right,
just?
hang on,
adopt-
my question, do we wanna split them out, or do we wanna do them all together? Is there a motion for one or the other?
I think we should do them individually.
All right. So document disclosure procedure. Is there a motion to accept that as written?
I make a motion to pen that until we get our FOIA questions
Support.
answered.
Okay, all those in favor of tabling that one?
Aye.
All right, communications crisis management procedure. Is there a motion to accept?
I move to accept.
Second,
Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That one we accepted. Disclosure of news and information procedure. Is there a motion to accept that one? as
Motion
written?
to accept.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
aye,
Opposed? That one we've accepted. Sexual harassment and other lawful sexual and other lawful harassment procedure. Is there a motion to accept that?
I would like to table this one.
Is that your motion?
That is my motion.
Is there support?
Look at the sport. Okay, I didn't look at it very close.
So you support the motion?
Yep.
To table it, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Can we go back? Cause
Back to
Kelly
what?
said this one for the employees. handbook
Oh,
was
yeah, I mean,
okay.
I guess that's
Can
true,
we flip
that's
it,
true.
go the
Can we
other
just put this in the board
Yeah, I
policy
mean, 'cause
packet
that was
instead?
some of the, yeah, I just felt like what she had written was very loose. And I mean, to be honest, there's more than one form of harassment, and so sexual harassment is just one.
You
Um,
wanna use that in place of it?
I,
Can we?
Let's make a motion. If that's so you're choosing, and this probably isn't proper Hoyle procedure, but if there's a motion to do that, we'll,
Okay, yeah, I'll make a motion to replace Pam's procedure with the employment manual procedure and duplicate that to the board policies.
second,
okay, so those in favor of that motion, you got that right, Ben?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, so we need to go back in and untable the first, that motion. So if the maker of that motion, which was who?
Who was
I believe
the
I'm the
original
one that
dependent?
voted to
That
table.
was Kellen.
Drawing a blank how to properly do that.
Can she rescind her
Can
motion?
you, yeah, I believe you do,
Yeah.
and the. It's,
Do we really need to do that? 'Cause we
yeah,
just
because
read-
it's
Just for
tabled, then we
Robert's
gotta talk
rules.
about it
Again.
again.
Right,
So you just have to say I rescind my motion to pen.
sure, I rescind my motion to table the motion.
Right, second.
Those,
Alright,
those opposed, those
Okay,
in
okay.
favor of that.
Wow.
Good job.
So I have three motions, that is not,
I don't wanna just, that was one thing, I don't wanna just rush through and just, although I like this, I do think that the topic of harassment should be looked at more closely, and
all right, we got it all covered for you,
No.
right?
Okay.
All right, outreach event,
Yeah, the biggest thing I wanted to make sure is that we get cultivating resilience on our schedules.
date and time again?
Yeah,
August 17th.
August 17th. Do you have stuff printed? Yeah. Is that what you're not?
Thought I seen that.
I thought it was August 13th, maybe that was last year.
August
Okay,
17th.
August
It's, is that a Thursday, I think?
Thursday.
maybe that's the day.
Oh, okay, that's one.
I know, because I've been
Available
planning
packet.
all of my vacation around that one day, like camping and the kids camps
I
and
know,
like
I know.
All
childcare.
right, what do you got for us on the 17th?
So that, I wanted to make sure that you guys got your farm field day information. These are for you if you want to hand them out.
Thank you.
Sarah does, have marketing, virtual marketing stuff that we can send and give out, so. If you're in need of that, we can send over to you guys on marketing
That was
package.
extremely helpful, because it was all right there, they didn't have to do anything.
Whoever made the flyer, good job, it looks great.
Morgan, made.
Morgan and
most of it,
Sarah,
yeah.
they're my
Fantastic.
experts, man.
It looks good.
It should be a good day, but I wanted to make sure again that you guys had on calendars.
Hopefully,
Alrighty, grants.
So our grants, there's a lot of grants still pending. We have our 319 grant for, the Bass River Deer Creek, Pigeon River and Rush Creek. We've heard small rumblings that we may very well be good contenders for this grant, but it has not been actually awarded yet. We should know within the next few weeks. The Watershed Council Support Grant, we have no idea. I'm not super hopeful, but we'll see. The Great Lakes Sediment Nutrition Reduction Grant, I don't know how we feel about that. I think we're just waiting. We don't really have any idea if we'll get it or won't get it, but we should know within the next month or two. The Midwest Glacial Lakes one, we don't feel too positive about this one. It's in place. They're coming back from the field visit.
Oh, that's too bad, because you wanted to do that. Was this the one for the shoreline and all that stuff?
No,
Or is that
this
a
is
separate-
actually, yeah, the shoreline would be the.
The Glacial Lakes Partnership is. the
Oh, I'm
shoreline.
sorry. Yes, yeah, that was
Okay.
the shoreline. Yeah, so we don't feel very positive about it.
Bummer.
And then we're waiting on we call it NIFWIF, the NFWF 5-star urban grant. That's for raindrop rescue. Again, we should know they say late summer, whatever that means. So we should know soon. Still waiting. We are preparing our NACD Technical Assistance 23 grant that supports our soil conservation tech, some training wages with the RCPP team and some wages for our MEP tech to assist NRCS with Conservation Reserve Program. So we are in the process, we just did a pre-proposal, we were approved to actually apply. And now we're applying for that and it's due August 7th, so that will be turned in August.
This is a question probably for Sharcy, but I noticed in her thing, she's maybe on maternity leave.
She is on maternity
Who's
leave.
gonna fill that void? Does she have that figured out?
So his name is Gabe Gabarino and he is the Allegan District Conservationist and he will be in our office on Monday and Wednesdays.
Okay. Heather always told me every time I talked to her, she was just way behind. Is Sharcy catching up?
I feel very good about Sharcy's ability
Got a
to
different
organize.
attitude, yeah.
And I feel I even have a very, I have a view of all the projects that they're working on. It's kind of nice. So I don't feel like,
She's dumped a bunch of them out in the last 10 to 12 days.
I would,
'Cause
I
she
feel like.
covered a lot of mine that was hanging.
And I
she
think
got
a lot of the
faded up.
sign up times are, it's not a bad time for her to be out.
Signups don't happen really until, early winter or early in the year, so
Mhm.
she'll be back by then.
Yeah, so I think it's,
Awesome.
Sharcy has been a great addition. She's
Fantastic.
organized, she has just taken that office and the work they do and put it into like such a. She's impressive. So I wouldn't say she's. behind. I don't see that.
Yeah, cause that did come up a lot, didn't it? And I like it.
Yeah, oh, I love Heather. I mean, we all work differently and we all, and you know, so, but she just has a different organization method.
Heather was alone for a long time too.
She
had
was alone
nobody
for a
in
long
that
time.
office.
RCTP is different. We just got the soil tech. I mean, Heather didn't have that. Sharcy had Kyle and Alex and that was a lot.
Ready.
So quick question, I see you're trying to apply for like some watershed. Did I read that you were applying for a watershed management grant, or am I mistaking that for
This
something?
Eagle one, the Watershed Council Support Grant.
Maybe it's this Little Black Lake thing that, anyway,
Yeah,
so if you can do that for Little Black Lake, is that possible to do for property?
if
That
we
would
get
be
these funds,
included in this.
we'll write you a property management plan. We get those funds, you'll all get management plans.
Well,
can have
because
it.
right now,
Happy birthday.
Yeah, management plan wrapped in a button.
the Lakes Association wants to hire someone who I feel is very, very competent. She's like a PhD or something, but she wants to charge a lot. And this is something where I'm concerned where we can step in and save them a little bit of money. And so when I see that you're applying for something for Little Black Lake, that tiny little itty bitty lake, I think I know exactly where it's at. Is this something that we can do for property?
I mean,
I mean, not through this funding pool, no.
Okay.
It would cost us more than 40 grand.
and that's all they have.
Well,
available.
yeah, it would be, but I'm kind of like, the wheels are turning a little bit.
I mean, if they wanted to contract us,
And realistically,
Do like a fee for service
yeah,
kind
that's
of
true,
thing.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well, we have to know that, I would have to know that it's possible, because that was another thing
I
that I
mean,
had
they
thought
write
about.
watershed.
Yeah,
management
well,
plans,
yes.
that's what they do.
Yes, we could.
Well, I think that we should file that away for to do.
I just told you you're gonna get one. You not hear that?
Yeah, we already got it.
well, I mean, if it's a fee for service thing, then like, is there an RFP out there that you could send to Megan or?
No,
I
Um,
would go ahead and bank, again, this
Not yet.
proposal to the county is not a sure thing. I don't want anyone to think it is, although we really, really feel good that they're gonna approve at least. most
Wait a
of
minute
it.
right there. Let's not run out of this
Yeah.
room. Again, we talked earlier. Of putting the cart ahead of the horse here. Let's keep our chickens in the barn here for a little bit until we go to the county and do this, so that we don't
Yes.
hand grenade or.
Yeah.
Or ruffle anything. So don't
Yes.
run back home tonight, tomorrow, the next day. And talk about this.
sure,
Okay,
I got
and
you.
we've all got that, right?
Yes.
Cause that's, I mean, we've got a lot riding on this thing, so
Say it loud.
again.
The monitoring piece is essential.
Yeah.
But
Well-
that being said, if we do get this, I have budgeted in monitoring and pieces to essentially write management plans for most of the lakes and some of the other
Right.
watersheds.
Right, that's wonderful.
But if it doesn't happen, it sounds like a set plan B is if they have an RFP for this PhD lady, whoever she is, that she sent them a proposal. I'm guessing they have an RFP to get proposals for other people, and there's no reason we couldn't do a fee for service proposal. right? Yeah,
Yeah, and I just,
Let's talk about that. I mean,
but that's like plan B,
yeah.
like get through this first, okay, because
I'll
this is
circle,
better.
I'll circle back to that.
Yeah.
Cause I don't want them to get put through the ringer with an expensive contractor when we can do it for cheaper. Okay, all right, cool. Are we,
What next you got?
So it's just if you guys have any updates and then we're done.
thank you.
Doug, anything?
So, just gonna work with Megan a lot on finances. And Matt and I kind of took a hit where we said no travel out of Ottawa County. About mentioned the finance committee. And that
For like employees.
for everybody.
Everybody but our produce safety and our.
Yeah. Who, if they
Anybody-
have to go out, that's their job, they go out. I mean, that's.
And it's a quick turnaround. I don't think it's a big deal. So if there's a training,
Just
for
more checks and
example, and Sarah wants, like, there's, for example, the most recent one was Sarah and Karen are going to a training in Lansing and so they're gonna be driving to
It's
Lansing,
just. so-
Foley.
Right.
And so then I estimated the budget for them to go back and forth 2 days, will be about $200. I look at my flow chart, I look at the budgets in them, and then I take it to these guys, I say, this is what it's gonna cost. It fits within my cash flow, it fits within their budgets. Are you okay with it? They give me a thumbs up. It slows me down. It helps
So good
me
checking
have
box.
some.
But the thing
technical
is that we don't really have a grip yet on how much is our money and how much program money's getting shuffled around. We're just trying to get a grip on that. Please just like leave her alone for a while so she can work on that.
Well, I
Alright.
would just offer one
Tim.
suggestion,
No updates,
gas cards. and
I don't
stuff
like 6 o'clock meetings, so I don't know if
We
that's,
have gas cards for our top.
Retail thing or not?
Individual, for their. individual
I'm probably the only vote.
That-
No, you ain't the only vote. I think something said earlier about middle of the afternoon.
Okay.
Did we go to 6 o'clock or was it a 6:30?
We
Six
said 6
o'clock.
o'clock.
Alright, if that's what the vote was, I'm good with that.
We can always bring it back up for another vote.
No, thanks.
Alright, Rivka,
Yeah, just working with Megan on HR committee stuff and reviewing all of that and was able to make some good connections from people at MACD with both the Park Township manager and connect some people with Lexi about some possible raindrop rescue like opportunities. So definitely was able to follow through after the conference and make some good connections. That
I think
have
she
been
meets with
helpful.
them tomorrow.
Yeah, so, yeah. Good stuff.
I enjoyed the
Kelly.
conference as well. It was not a complete waste of my time and the location is lovely. So,
and basically what Doug and Megan said, we just, been working on finances, trying to. I mean, a business this size needs a little, needs a little operating money. And I don't believe that we need a loan per se. I mean, I think we can do it from within house. I mean, that's.
yeah,
Not
I think
all
it's-
money,
No.
promissory paper.
If you're
No,
desperate.
But it's good to
that's
have
where-
that.
If you can't keep up, you can't catch up.
That's fact.
Yeah.
They all go exceed your income, it's circulating through downfall.
So that's the direction we went with it. So
right.
we'll keep you posted.
Motion.
Can I make,
to
I was gonna say,
Do it once a year.
adjourn?
well, that's what I thought. I was like, we just saved ourselves $600 per times 5 by switching to every other month meeting.
Just about, yeah.
That is a good comment.
Mhm.
There's a lot of other boards that only give you one check a year.
Yeah, it would be way easier.
And make them under $600.
Yeah, as long as they're on $600, you don't have to, I don't have to give you 1099. They're over 600, you get
Ding
1099.
ding. Well, let's reduce our
We
payment,
should-
so
we
it's under.
should be-
Should I really have to? pay
How many
taxes
years do I
on
gotta
money
serve
serving
to
the
get
government?
600?
Yeah,
Oh, what-
you're fine. You're
Is
fine.
this 1 month or 2 months?
One.
Yeah, I know, but
One
it's
of the
just-
cases
it's
is
We
not
don't
like
get,
double,
we don't make
right?
paid. All right, there was a motion to adjourn on the floor.
Second.
All those in favor,
I.
Hi.
those opposed better be quiet. We are adjourned.
Awesome.